So our next panel discussion uh, focuses on NFTs and future of Metaverse. And moderating this panel is Mr. Brennan Williams, founder and CEO of Synaptic Black Limited, creators of the Infinity Metaverse. For the past 28 years, Brennan has worked around the globe as a contract software engineer, chief technical officer, and consultant technical advisor to companies such as Microsoft, Motorola, Nokia, eBay, and PayPal, as well as smaller design and user experience focused agencies, both in London and New York. Brennan is a twice published author of technical books and has received several MVP awards from Microsoft for his service to the industry, as well as the globally recognized most valuable professional of the year in the year 2012-2013. Let's welcome Mr. Williams with a big round of applause. Mr. Williams, welcome to CWC. We are immensely excited beyond words to experience this discussion. The stage is all yours. You are on mute, Mr. Williams. I think we're all making this mistake today. So the first mistake is for
pressing that wrong. Yeah, I keep pressing the wrong button. That's no problem. We get all of that.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
No problems. Okay. Hello and welcome to everyone on this session, which is the NFTs and the future of the Metaverse. My name is Brennan Williams. I'm the founder and CEO of Infinity Metaverse. And I'll be moderating today's conversation, in which we have three fantastic guest speakers lined up to share with us their knowledge and their thinking. So first up, we're going to hear from Mr. Kazim Rizvi. I hope I haven't I've pronounced your name correctly. And we'll discuss the state of the metaverse in India and if it's ready for it. And as well as learn about some of the legal challenges that currently exist or may need to be considered moving forward. Following that, by a discussion with Mr. Lokesh Rao about his views on the future of NFTs, both generally and specific within the field of avatars. And then we're ready to have a conversation with Mr. Dale Perkins, and he'll be bringing a sort of broad view about the programmable tokens and NFTs, and indeed what is required in the metaverse. Okay, so let's get this party started. We've got about, I think, about 25 minutes allocated to this session. Without further ado, first up we have Mr. Kazim Rizvi. Kazim is a lawyer by training from Christ College, Bangalore, while leading a team of researchers on a broad range of pressing public policy issues. He has emerged as one of the most important voices in India's public policy space today. Kazim founded the leading think tank called The Dialogue, which today works closely with government and legislators to shape and drive policy change. Along with his work in the British High Commission, Kazim is a widely published columnist, as well as frequently speaking on television. And given that most organizations involved in the Web3 space are startups, he has particular insight into the ecosystem in India with his work establishing regulatory sandboxes that allow and encourage both innovation and tech entrepreneurship. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. Kazim. How are you? Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks a lot, Brennan. That was too kind.
No problem. So, Kazim, having such a wonderful history and broad involvement in the tech space from a policy perspective, I'd like to start today just by getting your take on how India's, is thinking about the metaverse, and indeed if you think that it is ready for it.
Thanks a lot, Brennan, for that question. So, when I was sort of thinking about this topic, and I was like, we were talking about while our policy framework will improve on that, with the policy framework. I think the rate, like the last 20 years, we've seen India emerge as a very important hub for growth. 18 billion, second highest number of users in the world. So we are going to be the center of, Web 3.0 when it takes off in a big. But are we ready for it from a policy standpoint? So I think at this stage, when it comes to regulation, uh, we regulate it because if there's a market failure or there is a need to protect consumer interest, industry interest, etc. The IT Act 2000 is sufficient enough at this stage when it comes to protecting business interests, when it comes to protecting consumers. But it's not able to respond to the need of people when it comes to data protection. Privacy is a fundamental right in India, and we are working on a data protection law. Hopefully, it will come soon. We are also working on a new IT Act, which will also be implemented very soon. And we are also looking at a raft of different laws to protect uh, user. When it comes to metaverse, I think on the hardware side, they have pushed the boundary. We launched 5 going to be a key role, making sure that you have high speed connectivity time to be able to sort of use and benefit from metaverse and the application. So right now, there's a lot of around the scope of
Kazim, I think it's breaking up just a little bit there. I'm sorry about that. So I didn't quite get the other end of that, but I really did want to ask you that given, that we see so much volatility in governments today with respect to policies and potential regulatory change happening, what would you say is the key legal and regulatory challenges facing the metaverse in India?
So I don't think there is, but at the same time, there is no regulatory or a policy push. So at this stage, it's an open space. Businesses can invest in it. Businesses can create applications. You can buy AR, VR devices and explore those opportunities. I think when it comes to access, definitely there is not enough access, but I think that will grow as the cost of hardware devices starts going down. You'll see an increase in access, and definitely there will be greater demand for such devices. So at this stage, the only challenge which I see within the metaverse is also that generally also is the lack of standards, right? And there are no defined standards of behavior. There are no defined standards of user safety. There are no defined standards for privacy and data protection. So the governments want to future-proof their regulation, and we are coming up with new laws, hopefully very soon by the next year, where we will be looking at regulating emerging technologies like the metaverse, including AI, etc. And I think there'll be a lot of focus on making sure that as this sector grows, as people start using it more and more with the rise of Web 3.0, how can user how can safer, how can protect their data? Because more data, movement, you have age, you have different type of brain as well going on. How do you protect
Okay.
that? Cognizant of those may come
Sorry,
up with.
yeah, it's sort of breaking up a whole heap there. But the parts that I did get from you there, Kazim, really, really fascinating. Obviously, how things are progressing and the rate they're progressing in India. What I'm going to ask you is if you can just hang around at the end there. We're going to sort of all come back together and have a chat generally about a few questions. But next up, actually, I did want to introduce Mr. Lokesh Rao, and I do hope I'm pronouncing your surname correctly, Lokesh. Nice. And Lokesh is the CEO and co-founder of Trace Network Labs. And Lokesh has over a decade of working with global fashion companies, acquiring and implementing technologies around the world. And for several of those years, he's been involved with DLT or distributed ledger technologies and blockchain. So I'd like to please welcome Mr. Lokesh Rao. It's a pleasure to have you today. How are you?
Thank you so much, Brennan. I'm good. How are you?
I'm getting there. I think everything's holding together in terms of our connections, so that's not too bad. Lokesh, I wanted just to sort of run through some questions with you, and kind of specific to the areas that you're working in. It's a fascinating area, and I'd say that I've been following along with your progress on the Buddy avatar solution. And for those who don't know, you announced a few months back the ability to mint avatars with clothing and animations. Is that correct?
That's right. So
Excellent.
yeah, we launched this product like in April. So that's right. It's pretty recent. But yes, we worked on this technology for like for almost like 6-7 months, and that's when it came into existence. And it started with like when we realized that none of the existing metaverses are having a possibility wherein a person can be represented by his true self, his digital twin. And this the second biggest problem, like, which we realized, like, and today we are facing the challenge that most of the metaverses, hardly the people are going over there, and that there are very less repetitive footfalls which is going over there. And those where there is some footfall, it's because primarily because of some kind of engagement wherein people are interested in building technology or in some kind of creativity, or maybe some kind of incentives. That's it. But otherwise, the true usage of metaverse, it has yet not been explored for various challenges. So the first challenge which we saw is like, unless a person is recognizable in that environment, it cannot be really used for any possible usages like social collaboration, or maybe for enterprise level usage wherein maybe businesses start adopting it. So like, first was like to give a face to a person's avatar, and then the second most important thing is like, now everyone is having a pretty good understanding that there are hundreds of metaverse getting created. So like, it should be one single metaverse world wherein it's easy to move in and jump on from one metaverse to other metaverse. And this is one of the most valuable asset which in my knowledge, like, which everyone would want to carry, since it carries your unique identity. And that's where the concept of buddy avatar came in existence, that we have to have a web3 native avatar which is agnostic to multiple metaverses on different chains, and one can hold it as NFT in their wallet. So it is their their own identity on which they own on chain. And when it comes like metaverses, it's just an extension of real world. Besides gaming, I think that's how metaverses are being very well perceived, that anything which happens in the real world can happen in the metaverses. Yes, it does not follow the laws of gravity, but in a true sense, that's how we can anticipate adoption, wherein whatever habits we have in the real world can be fulfilled in that virtual world as well. And for sure, like, if we are going over there, we will be equally interested like how we carry our lifestyles over there. So which also includes like what appropriate style statement we are bringing over there, what kind of dresses we are wearing in depending on what event and concert we are going to attend. So that's how we kind of evaluated and brought this whole concept into existence, and brought solutions on this.
Nice one. And so I guess the question there to ask you is what type of NFTs do you think are going to be most valuable in future?
Well, this is a very I mean, it cannot be one single word answer, but like, there could be like as we saw the evolution, it started with the collectibles and assets started get it created a popularity, okay, and adoption came in place wherein people started contributing in various kind of, they started going into events and concerts, buying ticket NFTs, and then started buying land parcels. and then fashion brands came in existence. So like we have evolved a lot. So phase one, which is like wherein people the knowledge about this whole technology and the ownership proof existence came, so like everyone from the individual to institutions, they understood like what exactly NFTs can be used for. And now the second phase is wherein the NFTs, once the interoperability will come into existence. So the first and most valuable NFT is like identity NFTs, which could be the most valuable. I feel so. Wherein any information related to your identity, whether your own avatar or any personal information, any kind of data, which used to be valuable even in Web 2, it will be valuable even in Web 3, like your own
Three.
data. But here you will be the owner of that data. So basically, it is going to carry a lot of value because here you can monetize on it, and that's what I feel like it's going to be the most valuable NFT which could
Excellent.
exist.
Okay, that's interesting, interesting take there, interesting viewpoint, and yeah, thanks, Lokesh, for sharing your views in future, and you're going to stick around as well, I hope, for in a little bit when we get everyone talking at the same time.
Yep.
Okay, so. Fantastic. Lastly, and by no means least, we're going to hear from a very dear friend of mine, and he's also one of the co-founders and the chief operating officer of Infinity Metaverse, and that's Mr. Dale Perkins McCook. Dale has an extensive history with crypto, DLTs, NFTs, blockchains, and he's spoken in places like Singapore, Dubai, several European countries, the UK, as well as China. And he's also an active member of the UK government's Digital Street Initiative, working with His Majesty's Land Registry to explore the impacts and the benefits of blockchain in real estate. And of course, working together daily with myself on our open metaverse network at Infinity Metaverse. So he joins us currently from his holiday in Jamaica. So thanks, Dale, for jumping on with this. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you. Yeah, thank you for the introduction and happy to be here. Hi, everybody.
Nice one. So, given that we've been speaking today about NFTs, Metaverse in the context of India, I thought it'd be interesting to contrast some of that with what you've been seeing in other regions around the world. So, just sort of quickly, what would you see as the reason behind the hype of NFTs?
Well, I think part of the reason is it's this concept of being able to program an asset, which just hasn't been there before. We've had these legacy industries like art. I'm not sure if my connection's still there. Yeah, can you hear me clearly?
We can hear you. In and out. You're all good.
Hello?
Keep going, Dale. Keep going. Dale's in Jamaica, as I said, so he might drop back in a minute, and we can continue having some of those questions that I wanted to ask him specifically as well. I guess Kazim and Lokesh, if I can sort of pose a question to you both, and I think all of us that are sort of involved in the industry, have thought about this, I'm sure, over time and as we progress. And I wanted to get your sort of thoughts on it. I'll go around the table and sort of ask you one at a time, if I can, what do you think are some of the challenges that Web3 and indeed the Metaverse will need to overcome in order to gain, some level of mass adoption? I think, Kazim, if we can start with yourself.
Okay, I can go first. Can everybody hear me? Hello?
We can hear you, Doug.
Okay, yeah, I think when it comes to challenges of the metaverse and NFTs, the first things we have to consider is ease of use. It's huge importance. There's so many of us that are still in this space that are still finding problems with wallets, problems with verification, being able to swap into certain tokens, coming in of tokens, out of tokens. It's just too complex. It just needs to be simplified, very ease of use for the user. And of course, the second one is the added value. What will the world and the mass adoption give to people? How will it make their life easier? How are we going to improve some of our processes? These are key things we need to think of, especially as technologists, because we get so engulfed in this space. We believe everybody's going to understand what a private key is, how to back up their key, how to download a JSON file. These may be simple things to us, but to the average user, it's just way too complex. So the moment we start seeing things like e-commerce being used in the metaverse, where people expect to be able to use augmented reality to buy an asset, and people understand the use of this, they can quickly pull up their phone, use augmented reality inside a space, understand what it's going to look like, and purchase it easily with crypto or fiat. That's when we start to see mass adoption.
Okay, so and Kazim, we'll come back to you in a minute on that question. Now that we've got Dale on a stable connection, I guess I'll ask you one last question there, Dale. With sort of the vast amount of media focus, on Web3, specifically on NFTs and crypto blockchain, in your view, do you think that crypto and NFTs are a requirement to interact or to get started in the metaverse?
Yeah, that's a good question. So a lot of people, as we've heard, are entering the metaverse buying parcels of land, and they still don't understand why they're buying the land or how they're going to use the land. So this misconception of you need to buy land to enter into the metaverse, you're going to need to use crypto, is just creating another barrier for adoption. Now, one thing we've been working at Infinity Metaverse, we are pro crypto, but we understand children and the age community are not going to be blockchain savvy or even technology savvy enough to use this. So we believe it's very important that we still have some of the basic structures that we use, like fiat. Yes, we can have fiat, we can have stable tokens, we can have digital assets all being used in the same environment. This barrier of us constantly going, you're going to need to mint an avatar, you're going to need to buy land, you're going to need to have a wallet to transact, just switches people off. The moment we can use fiat alongside crypto, as we've seen with other organizations that started to come out, they bolted the crypto next to the fiat. So there was no barrier. So those that were savvy enough that wanted really small process verification, SPVs with their transactions, so they're literally paying nothing for their transactions, can take that option and use crypto. But some people are happy paying 1%. Some people are happy paying 5% on a transaction. And the moment we can have that inside the metaverse and it's widely publicized, that's when we start to get enterprise and other businesses and organizations flocking toward the metaverse because they have no fear of blockchain.
So, and I guess that's, to tie into your previous comments there, it's about that ease of use and adoption and showing businesses and brands and people in general that, yes, crypto, NFTs, blockchains are part of where everything sort of moves towards, but it's certainly not an absolute requirement to begin with, right? Okay, before you dropped off, we did sort of go to this question that I wanted to ask everybody, and Kazim, I asked you first if you could, in your sort of view, what are the challenges that the Web3 and the metaverse need to overcome in order to gain some level of mass adoption?
Thank you, Brian. So I think first of all is the challenge of and the challenge of getting access to hardware, making it affordable enough for masses to buy and use it. What is the value? What is the real value they get as opposed to a phone? Why is metaverse needed? Why do you need a 3D immersive world to be able to experience things a lot better, be it e-commerce, be it education, be it entertainment, etc.? What is the difference it gives you? And what is the value add? I think so. First of all, is the access part of and affordable access is important, especially in a country like India, where you have so many hundreds of millions of users. But now that mobile phone when it comes to the
Kazim,
We are nowhere
Sorry,
close.
sorry, Kazim, I just lost you right at the end there. We sort of, I'm just keeping an eye on the time as well. You'll see me darting everywhere at the moment. So thank you, Kazim, for that. Lokesh, your sort of thoughts on the same question? What do you think it needs to sort of overcome to hit mass adoption? I think you're on mute, Lokesh.
Sorry. So
No, I
yeah,
did it.
so when enterprises would start coming, so it's pretty normal, like, they are the ones with whom the first class of people who work in a process, they start coming and following along with them to follow any new technology, and especially this is a technology for immersive collaboration. So that's the first step which has to go, wherein these enterprises have to start adopting this. Number two, today every metaverse, they are more focusing on selling land parcels. So this, I think that should not be the first case, but the first case is what exactly problem, like what Dale has said and Kazim was mentioning, that it has to solve a niche problem, and you have to understand specific business related processes and things. Then only you can develop an ecosystem wherein they can thrive. Like for example, I'm just taking like when I started building up something on Metaverse with Trace Network Labs, the first thing I realized, that there are so many metaverses, and each of these metaverses, they are focusing on everything. Right now they are trying to sell their lands, they are trying to bring different type of businesses onto it, but how exactly these businesses would work, the understanding was not there. So when the people from the businesses itself would start coming and giving their knowledge about like how does it work and how it should be to operate those businesses over there in the metaverse, that's when the real solution would come out. Like for example, in a fashion business, selling digital wearables is not that hypey thing, but when you start connecting the virtual world and the real world, you connect with a bridge, that's when it start making more sense. Like our habits of shopping and going in on e-commerce website, if the same thing I'm able to do using a metaverse, wherein I'm going there, I'm entering into a experience store of a brand, I'm able to try on the cloth on my body, and then I'm buying it, which eventually is getting shipped to me. That makes a lot of sense because that's our regular habit. We go for shopping, we find a place where we do it. So that's where now the next thing is, wherein instead of a 2D screen to see e-commerce website, people would be more excited to go and have an experience of shopping. Maybe they are going for shopping with a friend who's maybe sitting in a different geography, coming together, they are in a showroom, they chit chatting. So that experience has to come along, and the whole commerce related infrastructure has to be there, and that's where the more and more adoption and repetitive use would come in place.
Yeah.
So right, so like we are like, I have a fashion DNA, like I cannot think beyond fashion, because right now that's the most easiest thing for me, because I relate things so well related to fashion industry. I relate with their problems, their challenges, and that's where my focus is on. Entirely like the entire trace is building the infrastructure and metaverse technology only for fashion and lifestyle businesses. That has to come, like everyone has to focus on a specific niche, wherein their understanding about that particular business is good enough to create a solution for their existing problem.
Yeah,
So
solves, and I think that's the key thing, right? What we talk about here is not people coming up with solutions, or creating solutions and then trying to find a problem to solve. The general rule of thumb in creating a successful startup business is actually finding a problem first and then building a solution for it. So yeah, I totally agree there. And Dale, just quickly your take on that in about a minute, if we can.
Definitely. So I definitely agree with Kazim. Access to these environments is key. And I think we all need to remember it's not just about virtual reality. So at Infinity Metaverse, it doesn't matter if it's virtual reality, we're concentrating on people being able to access from their phones. We know a huge population over the world have smartphones. That is our key path into adoption. I think the second thing is, which is another thing that everybody's pointed out on this call, there seems to be hundreds of metaverses out there. This is, to some degree, a problem that needs to be solved. Interoperability is key. You must, as we said with the NFTs, be able to take your assets, be able to take your personal information, share it or not share it, and be able to walk through these worlds in a Web3 environment. So currently we're having these metaverses. They are Web3, but I'm having to go through Web2 and back again to access them. So I can be in somebody's metaverse. I need to come back onto the Web2 onto the internet, search for them through the internet, click into their URL, potentially download their metaverse and enter their metaverse. That is not, we need a one-click process. You need to be able to click and go straight into another metaverse, straight into another portal. All of this going back to Web 2 is still our transition phase. But that's something that Infinity Metaverse, definitely. If you're into metaverse, you're building your own meta space, connect with us because that's what we're all about, the open metaverse.
All right. So, yeah, thanks for that, Dale. I wanted to thank the panelists that are on here today, Mr. Kazim Rizvi, Mr. Lokesh Rao, Mr. Dale Perkins McCook. I always find it fascinating to speak with other people and to try and understand their sort of perceptions and their ideas, and to learn from every source possible. And I think that, for me, is one of perhaps the biggest attributes of Web3 and Metaverse is the willingness of people to come together and share knowledge, just as we're seeing today in this wonderful conference. I wanted to take the opportunity of course, to thank everyone involved with the CWC conference, in particular, AJ, Aman, Alicia, for involving myself and putting all of this together. And on a personal note, many of you will know that by now that I have a deep involvement and wanting to see the success of the metaverse in India. And so we are just really, really honored and proud to be part of this conversation in India. And I invite everyone to connect with me on LinkedIn, share your ideas with me, become part of this conversation. And of course, we are very much looking forward to joining everyone in person at next year's event in India as well. So, yep, thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause and gratitude for our moderator, Mr. Williams, and the league of our extraordinary panelists. Thank you for taking our time and joining us. This has been quite an insightful session, hearing from all of you. We look forward to seeing you again in the next iteration of Crypto World Conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Have a nice evening.